Good morning and welcome. I'm Nikki from the Severn Sound Environmental Association. I'm Severn Sound Environmental Association's Watershed Health Specialist. My presentation today is going to be all about watersheds, and more specifically, the Hogg Creek subwatershed. We've been a joint municipal service board since 2009. We are dedicated to a long-term preservation and protection of the natural environment of this area and areas that make up the Severn Sound watershed, as we will soon learn about. As part of this organization, I've had the opportunity to be a part of a variety of projects and programs that focus on monitoring climate and water quality, which is a big part of maintaining a healthy terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem on a watershed scale. Looking at the area in which the SSEA operates can be a little overwhelming. Take it from the person that tries to monitor such a large area. As the map is showing us, we are covering a lot of ground, and our jurisdictional area stretches across most of the northern parts of the county of Simcoe and into portions of southern Muskoka district. This is an area delineated naturally by the flow of water and is referred to as the Severn Sound watershed, named after the Severn Sound portions of Georgian Bay. You may be wondering, well, what is a watershed exactly? There's an easy way to think about what a watershed is and how it functions. A watershed can be thought about as an area where all its water drains to a common point. On a small scale, we can imagine this as a splash park or a splash pad. The water source can be thought of this as the sprinklers in the case of a splash pad, and in nature, it is designed to allow water to travel to the channels and common points, draining to one area, sometimes going underground. Of course, water never stops moving and doesn't just disappear. Like in a splash pad, it is all converging to a single point, but it's maintained in this system. To further understand a watershed, there are key features that every watershed has in a natural setting. The water source, of course, supplies of water such as groundwater seeps and precipitation, or like the sprinklers that we talked about in a splash pad. Drainage points, just like the channels in a splash pad. A watershed moves its waters along land through streams and lakes. There's watershed boundaries that can be thought of as the edges of a splash pad, which are designed to slope inward to a drainage point, like the elevation changes in a natural watershed scenario. Finally, the flowing water eventually collects at that collection point, which can be thought of as a kind of sink, usually leading to an outlet point. In a natural setting, water always wins. It takes the path of least resistance and eventually drains to one area, such as a large lake, bay, or sound, just like the Severn Sound. The sound is our area's sink or collection point, where converging water of all the different stream sources dump into. Looking at the map, you can see that each stream presented as a blue arrow in our watershed drains in the same direction. Amongst these streams, you can see the Hogg Creek. The Hogg Creek is one of the streams contributing significant amount of water to the Severn Sound. The Hogg Creek acts like a small watershed in itself, and can also be referred to as the Hogg Creek subwatershed, as its area's water moves in the same direction overland into its Hogg Creek. The Hogg Creek drains to a single outlet point named Hogg Bay, which is part of the Severn Sound. Let's explore the Hogg Creek subwatershed area. I will go through a series of maps which will show you what the area's land is currently being used for. Even though there are many factors, land use and cover can play an important role in water quality. Hogg Creek flows south to north to the Hogg Bay.
The total area of the Hogg Creek watershed is 60 kilometers squared. The longest headwaters to the outlet distance is 17 kilometers long.
The area crosses 4 municipal boundaries, Tay being the largest portion, Tiny, Springwater, and Ormondonte. This just goes to show you that water does not respect municipal boundaries, and we are all connected in our neighboring communities through its natural paths. This slide shows a light beige-green color, which represents the wetland cover, which is only 11% of the area. Wetlands are so vital for the health of groundwater and surface water. Groundwater and surface water can often be used as drinking water sources for rural areas. And wetland soil and plants act like natural filters. They're like the kidneys of the system, injecting clean drinkable water into the surrounding areas. The bright green represents 40% of woodland cover, which is equal to the agricultural cover at 40%. This is an important balance to maintain. This is seen as a diverse coverage, which is a healthy coverage. Biodiversity increases with different land uses, especially in the presence of woodlands and wetlands. The smallest area, in pink, is considered the urban and rural residential area, and that is 6% or less coverage. Following the path of water to its outlet point, Hogg Creek pours into Hogg Bay. Hogg Creek's water quality is important to Hogg Bay.
Hogg Bay water quality is important to many people living and working in Victoria Harbour, Port McNicoll, and Wabashin, as it's the only source of drinking water.
The yellow circle on the map shows the intake protection zone. Everything on the land that flows into Hogg Creek flows into Hogg Bay and eventually flows to the Severn Sound. SSEA has been looking at the Hogg Creek to determine how the water quality is doing. We use specialized pieces of equipment and water samples from the stream and bay to measure water quality. We then use water quality indexes like the one on the screen to rate a red rating poor,
green good to excellent water quality rating,
based on the evidence gathered over the years. Using the rating can help us build the answers to the most often asked questions. Well, what's the story of the creek and the bay? How's it doing? Looking at the average rating gauge for Hogg Creek, we can see a fair to marginal rating with a 67% score, which is less than what we would want to see. We can also see from the gauges on the screen that the Hogg Bay gauge currently scores better than the creek, and there may be multiple factors which play a role in that outcome. In most situations, without further investigation, it is hard to determine, but understanding the current situation is the first step to staying vigilant. The good news comes from looking at the changes over time. The 2 bar graphs on the screen show how over the years, from the 1970s to 2020, there's been an improvement. This is a good news story. This is proof that shows how communities and individuals are becoming more aware of how to preserve a healthy environment, and that it's up to us to prevent impacts from changes in land use, water courses, and we have become more proactive in providing a helping hand that maintains our natural environments so our watersheds can be resilient to climate change and ecological changes. SSEA is working towards maintaining a healthy watershed through things like environmental monitoring, which provides evidence-based science to track changes in our natural environments so we can better understand what is happening and how we can respond. Also through other programs in education and outreach, source water protection, and wildlife habitat enhancement, to name a few. Everyone can have a positive impact, and as landowner or even as someone visiting, you can always conserve water, get involved with community projects such as tree planting, stream cleanup, and attend as many educational workshops like this one to expand your knowledge on how to keep your watershed healthy. Because even if you don't live in this watershed, you currently live in a connected system and in a watershed that provides everyone with essential resources that allow us and the next generation to live happy, healthy lives. Thank you very much. Contact information for myself is on the slide. And a reminder, SSEA is here if you have any questions or you'd like to get involved in any of our projects or programs.